Hey, welcome everybody. We're live again. I wasn't sure if we'd be back tonight. I said I might take a couple nights off, but criminal defense attorney Bederow hit me up with some things he wanted to talk about, and I can't refuse him. I love having him on the show. I've been last night I did a solo show. I must have said like maybe about a dozen times. I agree with what attorney Bederow said, which is awesome to say. I, what do you want to kick off tonight? Because there's a lot that we discussed the other night, but there's some things that maybe we didn't get to that have come up since then. What do you want to kick off with, Attorney Bederow?
Well, I saw a lot of people were asking questions or commenting on Fifth Amendment issues and procedure and whether Jennifer McCabe could do that on Tuesday. And the short answer is probably not, because she's essentially waived her right to do it by talking about all of the issues that would theoretically subject her to some kind of liability. But people wanted to know the process of how that would work. So, she has her lawyer with her in the courtroom. And if she wanted to attempt to not answer a question, she would have to indicate so. And what happens is the judge would have to make a simple determination outside of the presence of a jury whether she has the right to assert the Fifth Amendment, whether it's been waived, and whether it's also not a frivolous claim in the sense would the answer really incriminate her. And I mean, it appears that she would have a right to at least say that her answers could be incriminating as it relates to some of these Google searches, deleted calls. I mean, I don't know that she actually gave any testimony about deletions, but she certainly testified that the search occurred at 6 something in the morning, which is certainly contested by the defense. She made some other statements that at least appear on the surface from what you know to be false, such as this what appears to be recently fabricated version of events about the taillight now covered in snow, which appears to be, as I said, recently fabricated. I don't think she mentioned that in any of her police reports. And it seems to be just something that came up after the dash cam from the trooper at John O'Keefe's house. But the reality is this: you can't start answering on a topic and then claim you're going to assert the privilege and get away with that. So what would happen is, I mean, the judge could find that she would incriminate herself, but that if she waived it, she really has two choices. You can answer the question, which she may not want to do if she believes it's going to incriminate herself. But if she doesn't, I mean, you can't literally put a gun to her head and say, answer the question. So if she doesn't answer the question, then they're in a lot of trouble, because what'll happen is her direct testimony would be stricken. I mean, you can't get away with having it both ways. And, in theory, someone could be held in contempt as well if they if a judge finds that you waived it and I'm ordering you to answer the question. But the contempt thing aside, that's not as important. The real thing is that, you could have all of her testimony stricken, and that would be probably close to end of days for them for the case. Having said all of that, I don't think she's going to take the Fifth at this point, because the smart thing would have been to do that before her direct. Now she's kind of on the hook with a lot of things that she said. So based on what you've seen with the other witnesses, I think they're all in. They're not dipping their toe in the pool. They're diving into the deep end. And I suspect that's what she'll do. That may be different than Proctor perhaps down the line. But with her, I think you're going to get the full cross. And I think she's going to answer all the questions, whether they be truthful or untruthful.
Awesome. I know there were some other things that you wanted to talk about tonight too, I believe, right?
Oh God, who the hell can even remember?
I can bring it up.
Sure.
Let's take a look right now. Massive Media is going to be here at 9:15 for people who want to hear him as well. Here we go. I'm going back the alcohol supervisory photo there. It's a private joke.
Careful if you go to Fenway. Just be careful.
Is it Fenway? Yeah, he's at
Yeah,
Fenway.
no, that's definitely Fenway.
Oh, here it is. No, that's not it. I'm looking. We have two message groups here. Where is it? Okay. No, that's not it. People seem confused at how when we just did that, and the consequences could be worth speaking about. Also, explain why the body had to be put on the front lawn, why medical evidence will bury the DA, and why MM claim it was for media doesn't make sense. Michael Morrissey, I'm assuming, or
Uh,
maybe Matt
no,
McCabe.
that
Actually, Matt
probably.
McCabe. Yeah.
Oh, I guess the thing about the body on the lawn, I mean, a lot of people are saying, well, even some analysts, why would anybody commit a murder in their house and just dump the body on the lawn? How stupid is that? And I would agree that that sounds stupid in general terms, but when you look at the specific nuances of what appears to have happened here, they don't really have a choice because everybody knew that John O'Keefe was going over there, and that would have been the last place that he would have been seen. And the assumption would have been that he at least was in the house or close by it, and they're going to ask a lot of questions. And of course, if they say he never came in the house and he's found out on the lawn and it appears to be some kind of accident in a snowstorm, I think it makes perfect sense in this particular situation that they would put him there. If there was no publicized plan for him to go to the house, then perhaps he gets disappeared somewhere and it's just kind of, I don't know, we were at a bar and he left and I never saw him again. But the problem is he was going to the house. They would have tracked his phone going to the house. So, I mean, some of the analysts that have been talking about it, maybe they don't know a lot of the facts or the nuances, but that one seems to me to be a no-brainer. They had no choice. What are they going to do? They're not going to leave him in the house. So it's an accident in the front of the house and, blame someone, whether it's a plow driver or whatnot. And at some point they learned about a broken taillight somehow, some way. And, she certainly fits the bill if that's what happened. I think that's certainly a plausible explanation that they would have thought. And they kind of expanded upon that in telling or purportedly telling the press or the cops or whoever that that's the story. He never came in the house. So what's he doing on the front lawn by the street? He got hit by a car. Oh, look, there's glass in the yard and there you go.
Absolutely. You also, I know, wanted to talk about why medical evidence will bury the district attorney.
Well, I mean, it's pretty interesting that you're almost a month into this and you haven't even heard from the medical examiner. I mean, that's got to be coming relatively soon, but I don't think it takes a medical genius to realize that if there's no real trauma to his body, other than as far as I know, other than the back of his head, is the only real blunt force trauma of any kind, other than some bruising. And I think the medical testimony might bear out that the swollen eyes have to do with the injury to the back of the head, as well as possibly being punched or whatnot. So you clearly would appear to have a proof problem, or what I'd call a common sense problem, in terms of their theory. If 25 miles an hour backing up over however many feet, there's got to be, somewhere. Where is the banging? Where is the belt? None of that makes any sense.
That's the biggest thing. No matter what they say, it's like, where are the injuries to the body from the car? I mean,
Where are the injuries?
and
And then
where's the damage on the car? Like you just said. I mean,
where's
that's
the damage? All of that. And then it gets potentially worse for them when you consider what the medical examiner apparently is going to say, or at least what she initially said. They have to determine causes of death and, well, manners of death, and then from that, a cause of death. And, a manner of death is more like a forensic science thing. Homicide, suicide, accident, those kinds of things. They're not even opinionated or analyzing anything. I mean, I know we talked about this before, but homicide's not even a dirty word. It just means one person causing the death of another. It doesn't even have to be a crime. And from what we've been told, if the manner of death can't be determined, okay, that's potentially problematic, and the cause of death couldn't be determined other than, hypothermia as a contributing cause and probably the actual cause, although you can't ignore the physical body trauma. But I think where it all goes downhill for them are the gratuitous comments that I can't tell you manner or cause, but I can tell you not from getting punched and beat up.
Yeah.
And, whether that's medically sound or not, I'm not a doctor, but probably not, just based on having seen these before and knowing what fights look like, whether that's accurate or not, that gratuitous comment is more consistent with bias of a non-scientific type by the police, who almost certainly would have been present at the autopsy. And when they were told, I can't determine manner or cause and whatnot, well, can you tell us? Can you at least say it's not this? And now you have a scientist who's being influenced by cops, which is not scientific, clearly. And it also fits right into the plan that the defense is suggesting, which is the cops are too heavy-handed in this. They have a result they want to get. And I, in some ways, I almost feel bad for the medical examiner, because she's going to get grilled on that one gratuitous sentence. And you're probably going to see a lot of hemming and hawing, because the other thing on top of that comment, which doesn't really belong in an autopsy, on top of that, is that a medically sound conclusion? I don't know. I'm sure the defense's expert is going to say, usually black eyes, broken or bloody knuckles, or this or that, some bruising on the nose, something on the back of the head, that certainly could be consistent with some kind of fight. If you didn't know the manner and you didn't know the cause, how are you so quick to rule that out? I don't know if there's a good answer for that.
Yeah, especially knowing this is why I would never get in a fist fight or any type of fight as an adult, because so many times people get punched and it's not the punch that hurts them. It's that hitting the ground. It's the back of the head hitting that ground.
We used to call those, we had cases like that. And we used to call those misdemeanor murders, because they were really assault cases. No one intended to kill anyone. And you would hit someone and they would hit the curb or something similar. And all of a sudden, a one punch, stupid bar fight type thing turned into a homicide. The other question, I think,
what it looks like. I mean, the gash on the head. That's exactly what it reminds me of. I've seen it happen so many times in the papers, and
it does. The other thing, which will be interesting, is, and I haven't seen an autopsy report. I mean, those are usually sealed until necessary. I don't know if they're floating around and all the other documents that are floating around. But the real money question for the autopsy will be, well, somebody just read my mind on one of these comments, is who was there from the police department. And if it turns out to be Proctor,
or Bukaki, even, I mean,
look,
they're all tainted. Yeah,
that's how they do it in places like this. But they're not supposed to be having a Q&A and suggesting hypotheticals at an initial autopsy. Sometimes, and you have a retired detective from the NYPD, who I don't know who it is, but he knows who I am a little bit, and I want to figure out, have a conversation, but was commenting in one of your last streams correctly that what they'll do if a cause of death and a manner of death ultimately remains undetermined from a period of time, there may come a time, if a case is going cold or whatever, that the police will ask questions of a medical examiner, and you might see some kind of not necessarily undue influence, but asking questions, help us solve the crime and whatnot. But here, you have an autopsy within a couple of days, which says, I don't really know anything other than couldn't have been a fight, which
it's a red flag.
That's a big red flag. That's a bright red flag for sure.
I've said this before. It reminds me of the Annie Dukin thing, when the police were working with a lab tech to get results they wanted. It's like very similar type of situation.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm sure there are going to be jurors who are familiar with her. I mean, I know she was a drug lab chemist and whatnot, so it's a little different. But just the whole idea of how do the authorities look so far, and we haven't gotten to the big one who's supposed to be the bright one. You know what you're dealing with Proctor, who is a disgrace, and anyone who tries to defend him is, I mean, they're just delusional. Whatever you think of guilt or innocence, if those texts are accurate, which I mean they have to be. I saw some stuff today that he was hanging out with his wife and McCabe bonding. I mean, what the hell is that?
Oh,
And
they got caught at their house at
yeah,
the
oh yeah.
Proctor house.
I mean, what the hell are you doing? And the discussion about
You know what they blamed it on? They said that they said they didn't know each other before, which is far fetched. But that Turtle Boy, the harassment from Turtle Boy, brought them all together, and they became friends because they were all being harassed. That
very
was their excuse.
very professional. Okay. Okay. I mean, look, that's to tell you the truth, that's the least of that guy's problems. He's got, that's kind of a third world problem for him. He's got first world problems that he's going to have to deal with. But, they already think that or are going to learn that he's basically corrupt. There's this incestuous relationship among members of the Canton police and the Alberts and McCabe's, which could be troubling for jurors already. On top of just that incestuous relationship, you have a competence problem, leaf blowers, red solo cups, stop and shop bags. So already before the ME has already testified. Oh, I forgot. And of course, the Mass State Police with, sending out DNA swabs, and their position is, pretty pleased, double pinky promise, trust us. This is legitimate swabs. And, you don't want to think that the cops would do anything not sincere in a case, but open your eyes, wake up and smell the coffee. Look what's going on here. So doesn't mean they did it in this case, but do you think the jury has a reason to doubt that and then say, and what do they do? Go swab a pig's ass? I mean, it doesn't,
Right.
it makes no sense unless it's dog food. I don't know, but putting all of that aside.
Yeah, someone brought that up. The Barstool sports guy brought that up. It could be like a pig's ear. A lot of dogs
Could
get
be. I
that
mean,
treat.
look, it could be, but to me, the DNA test is meaningless on the merits. It's compromise. It's
Yeah,
not.
absolutely.
There's no
You
proper.
don't know what they swabbed. I mean,
That's
that's the
right.
bottom line. We have no idea.
And you don't know what the source material is and what condition it was in. I mean, they just
Exactly.
violated every protocol on how you would do this. I mean, when we have cases here, and a lot of times clients have to get swabbed for DNA. They want to link them to a gun, a crime scene, whatever. And what they do is you go to the DA's office or wherever, and a detective who's going to do the swab comes, and he in front of the lawyer. So this way the lawyer can't accuse me of doing anything.
Yes.
Opens up a new swab, does what he does, reads off all of this, does it in your presence, asks her to do it herself, and does this and that, and
Throws it in the sealed envelope and
prepares a report and does it. And you know what? That's how you do it. Now, if they were going to do it with original source in this case, I understand they would have had to ship the shirt out. Maybe they didn't want to do that. But you know what? If you're going to do it and you're not going to ship the shirt out, then for the love of God, invite the defense attorney into your office or videotape it and say, we're swabbing this. And if they say, okay, you have it. But these people don't do it that way. And all they do is make you rely on their integrity, which a lot of times works. But in a case like this, if you're relying upon Proctor's integrity, he has none.
yeah, he has none. It's
So
gone.
it's pathetic. And it doesn't matter whether you think she's guilty or not, that all of the science is compromised. And then you're going to get to a medical examiner who is going to have to explain this bizarre conclusion, which supports what the DA wants to disprove while not making medical sense, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Now, you also had a comment about Matt McCabe, and what was that about what was that actually?
Oh, about whether he was talking about, get this out for the press
Yes.
or
Yeah. D&E Pizza, right?
I mean, look, maybe that was partially true, but to me, if anything, it's a double whammy. The first thing they have to do is get their story straight, assuming you buy into what the defense is proposing. And at least at this point, what do you have? You have, if you look at the report from McCabe's cell phone, the defense report, which relies on Celebrite, which is reliable, okay? And the DA is kind of in this paradoxical universe where it appears they're going to argue that the Celebrite is not reliable for you, but it was reliable for us. And if you look at the Celebrite software that was used by the defense, it appears to be a more modern version than the DA used, but you can clearly see the deleted Google search at 227. But even if you put that aside, there are numerous items on her phone happening during the early morning hours where she's going back and forth with talking to the Alberts and this and that. And somebody sent her a photograph at about 6 a.m. Now that's creepy because what might that be that she deleted? Is that blood? Is that, who knows? So you have all of those deletions from the time that the shit hit the fan right up until it appears she was going to meet with Lank when she remembered that Karen Reed had told her that there was, I might have hit him or I hit him, whatever the exact words were, that she somehow remembered. And of course, this is after she had huddled with the family for a period of time. All those communications are deleted. Other ones with John O'Keefe are deleted. Why would you delete that? You wonder if she just deleted everything from point A to point B without even having any regard for what it was in a panic, because she deleted the 911 call, which is probably the one thing she might, if she wants to look like a credible person here, you might keep. What it suggests to me is that she went like kill it all, and she went. Maybe Mazza might have used this analogy one of these other times, but like Lorraine Bracco and Goodfellas, when the cops are coming to Henry Hill and she's cutting up the cocaine.
Yeah, she's
and
getting rid of it,
out.
flushing it. Yeah,
That's what that feels like. That's just a delete everything up until, oh shit, Lank is coming. Delete it all. Okay, my phone's clean. He might want my phone. So they clearly had something going on at that point. And then you have Brian Albert's butt dials that, they think they're going to explain. I mean, give me a break. They're not going to be able to explain it very well because he kind of used his explanation, which none of us want to think about, but that kind of makes it hard to believe. I mean, he may be too clever by half. Maybe he should have said, I don't know how that butt dial happened, rather than twice during sex. Anyway. So you have that story clearly in place. They meet with the cops that day, and a couple of days later, which I think might have even been the day that she was arrested or thereabout, you have Matt McCabe, who is, the lookout, if you will, gratuitously driving by the house, reporting that they're digging, although in the other person's yard, the Asians, whatever, but that they're digging over there. He needs to get a photo. And then they're saying, something about see if Chris can talk to his people. Might that be the press? I don't know. I think it's probably more, the cops. But then you have them concerned about what Kerry was saying to Proctor, and are they going to believe her? So these people are clearly circling wagons. This is not normal conduct for people who are innocent victims in all this and lost their close friend because his psycho I guess, ex-girlfriend at that point mowed him down on her yard. I mean, they ought to have been pissed and sad rather than, saying tell them he never came in the house. Then you have this bizarre interview where TV says there's all this Ring camera, which was, I mean, that's just horrible. I mean, if that's not true, I mean, you couldn't prejudice a defendant worse than saying there is videotape of the defendant committing the crime. And it turns out it's not true. And how it is. It gets reported once, it's going to get picked up, and it becomes part of the narrative. It just becomes a fact, even though it's fiction, because if it gets repeated enough, everybody believes it. And so you start to wonder, where did that information come from? And might it come from the people who are saying the guy was never in the house, tell the cops this? Moreover, you never saw anything that would lead you to believe that the DA was upset about that. I mean, they're supposed to wear the white hat.
Yes.
Supposed to be the good guys. They're supposed to, whether she's guilty or not in their eyes.
Yeah, he never put out a statement to correct that. He had to, yeah.
Not only did he never do that, he did two other things which are terrible. The first is he never, at least publicly from what we can see, did anything to say, we're going to find out who did this. And if this is in my office or law enforcement, there's going to be consequences for leaking false information, and you're compromising our investigation. And then the second thing he did was months later give that stupid press conference about the harassment where he started putting out further false information. So now to go back to the McCabe thing, tell them this, tell them that. Might it be the press? Maybe. But, some of the people who were, I've had a lot of people lobbing, troll bombs at me all weekend for having the temerity to think this case stinks. I don't.
You're the new target because you know what? You're blowing everything up.
I guess
our last show broke every record on this,
well,
even more than Sean McDonough. That last episode broke every record we had on our channel. So I mean, that's why they're pissed at you. That's why they're mad, Ron.
It's fine. I mean, I try to reason with these people. If they disagree, I don't really care. But I mean, some of them are just so they were very impressed that her lawyer walked into a trap by allowing, Matt McCabe to say, no, that was for the press. Okay. And, I even said, maybe he shouldn't have asked that question and let him get that out. But my bottom line point was, when you look at all of the texts together, what lawyers call marshaling the evidence, which the lawyers, and that comes in summation. See, these people are too simple in their thinking. They want to keep score of every fact in live time and say, we're winning, we're losing, we're winning, we won this. That's not how it works. It comes down to the closing arguments when the lawyers take it all and put it all in. And
together,
when you
like
take
the entire picture of it,
when you take Jennifer McCabe's conduct on her phone, Brian Albert's conduct on her phone, the fact that Higgins, threw his phone in the ocean or whatever, and then you look at all these text messages and you look how the media report came out, and you say, is this the behavior of clean, innocent people, or people who are trying to hide law enforcement and others from knowing things that they don't want you to know? And it doesn't mean they're killers. It doesn't mean anything like that, but it means that they're spending a hell of a lot of time trying to cover something up. And if they think that doesn't help the defense, then they need their heads checked, because it's really bad for the prosecution and really good for the defense.
There's so much weirdness about this that we don't even talk about Michael Lank anymore. I mean, it's so hard to keep track. Katie McLaughlin, all the stuff that's come before.
That's the summation.
Every day, it just adds to it. There's like new stuff that's even worse. Mazza Media is here. What's up, brother?
Good evening.
Thank
you guys for having me. Happy to be back.
Yeah, you've been gone. What do you got for us tonight?
This is my third show of the day so far, so my Sunday's been pretty occupied. So it's been a good day nonetheless. I love it. So this is what I want to talk about. This is where I want to be. So let's talk about one of my quotes I came out with last night. I took Malcolm's quote from Jurassic Park and basically revamped it and basically said the McAlberts were so preoccupied with whether or not they could, that's in parentheses, cover up the murder of John O'Keefe, end parentheses, they never stopped to think if they should. So when you look at this right now, you think about these individuals. They've put together a cover up. They've made this all packaged together. Now here they are. Now they got to really just like, this is the performance time. This is really showtime for them right now. And you think back to all this when it first started, and what would have been the absolute multitude of consequences if they had just not bothered covering this up? If they had just said, "This is what happened. So and such had a little bit of a dust up, and it got a little out of control. There was some alcohol, and suddenly, he was inadvertently killed." This would be in a situation or scenario where, of course, his murder was not a premeditated. It would be spontaneous. It would have been better for all these folks to just not take it upon themselves to pigpile into a, this is your role, this is your role, this is what you saw, this is what you didn't see. I'll take care of everything from here. They're on the stand, and they're basically all telling their piece of the puzzle. And Karen, not Karen, Jen McCabe is up there Friday, and I mean, if someone had given her a theater script and told her role was of the evil queen, and all she had to do was play her role. She did a great job in memorizing every part of her script because it was so polished and so well rehearsed. That doesn't mean it was perfect. It was quite flawed, in fact. But whatever bullshit story she was trying to tell on the stand, you could tell whatever it was she was saying, she had it memorized. And you could tell when you're looking at her eyes, she's just trying to make sure she says it just right. These people have been rehearsing this for the longest time imaginable. And she was more than willing to tell you all about this story, like she was presenting a book report in eighth grade English class. It was pathetic. And it's just, you think about her. Why would you, like, when you think about this, like her involvement and even Matt's involvement in this, when it boils down to whatever happened with John O'Keefe, if it was Brian Albert or Brian Higgins or Colin or two of those three or one of those three or all three of those guys, what is really your obligation to step in and try to cover for them? I understand they're your family, but that's where I come back to. I think they got so caught up in the arrogance of the fact that they could do this that they didn't think about the outcome of whether or not they should. That's why I had that quote lingering in my head the past couple of days. And it's just what they're trying to take on is this big freaking ruse here. And they never thought that the Karen Reed case would get this public. I mean, I was talking to a guy on my show earlier today from England. He was awesome. And he knows all about the case. And so do many people from the UK. You got um, this particular set of lawyers that beyond David Yannetti, your local Boston attorney, who's stellar, they also went out and got Alan Jackson, who's defended people like Kevin Spacey and Eliza Little on the case. They never could have expected that Karen wasn't going to back down. They tried to get her to slunk out with overcharges. They tried to do everything and they could to just kind of, we can make this work. And oh, by the way, we know a state police officer, he can help us, and we can light up the crime scene. And these people just got so carried away with what they thought they could do. And you got how many viewers right now? Somewhere above 1,500, almost 2,000 people tuning. You got 2,000 people. I'm sure like 99% of them aren't trolls, that are tuning in right now. And they all believe the same thing. They all see the same thing. All of us at one point started to look at this and say, there's something out of control here. And whatever they thought they could cover up has not worked very well because in a court of the everyday citizen, whether in this country or not, or in this state or not, you got over almost 2,000 people tuning in right now. Most of them that are not trolls all believe Karen Reed's innocent for a reason because they all see through the lines and they can see through the bullcrap and the nonsense that's being explained here. And not in a single person here that I know of believes Jim McCabe's testimony to Adam Lally on Friday was legitimate and wasn't absolutely full of nonsense when he got Turtle Boy on his live show last night, playing her clips, mixing it with video of what actually happened, and then playing that "You're lying" song. And it's just so ridiculous that these people would take it upon themselves because their egos were so big. And the ultimate quote here is going to be pride comes before the fall because these people involved themselves in something they thought they could perpetrate, and it's going to unravel. And I'll tell you right now, I would rather be a turkey in the oven on Thanksgiving morning being prepared for Thanksgiving dinner than to be Jen McCabe on that stand and have to face Alan Jackson on Tuesday because it's going to be the biggest turkey roast that you've ever seen, and Thanksgiving is still another 6 months away.
Yeah, I'd say it's to be the biggest turkey roast since Matt McCabe on Friday. I mean, that's what he
Good
looked
point.
like. He'd smile away. Next thing you know, his head's red. I got uh, good advice for Matt McCabe. Instead of like rehoming Chloe, which the brother-in-law did, he should rehome his wife.
Well, you know what I found interesting about her, and this isn't what I would have expected in the beginning. When you saw people like Brian Albert, now again, his testimony in many ways was absurd, and it's just contradicted by common sense and some forensic digital evidence and all that. But his demeanor was good. Okay. And then you thought even like Colin, okay, again, whose testimony in certain parts was silly at times, silly meaning like give me a break, uh, inconsistent, stupid, but his demeanor was good. I mean, let's be honest.
30 milligrams was helping out.
That's right. But, the daughter, McCabe, who, is saying that the scientific data about where I'm going is inaccurate. But you know what? Her demeanor, and she cried and all, whatever you think of that, their demeanor wasn't terrible. Jennifer McCabe, just demeanor was awful. Okay. She came in there with a nasty edge to her and throwing gratuitous digs and nonsense about ex-girlfriends and not taking shoes off in the house. And I thought it was very interesting to me. This was my recollection. I thought she tried to cry, but really couldn't cry. She couldn't muster it up because she doesn't want
She's
to.
too icy. She's too
She
ice
couldn't
princess.
do it because,
Yeah.
and the other thing, which is really crazy with the way all these people testify, is we've been told that, she came in screaming and all this, and she's telling you about all this emotion. But when remember the George Michael Sports Machine? Do you remember that?
Yeah. Oh yeah. That
Okay.
show. Yeah. Sunday nights.
Let's go to the videotape.
Yes.
And you look at her on the video in real time when the tragedy is at its peak. There's a dead or dying body of their friend lying on the lawn, and she's as cold as the weather, right? When she calls 911, she's just like Brian Albert and her husband, the guy. There's a
The guy.
guy. It's not who it is. She doesn't
Yeah. It's
identify him.
not John O'Keefe. It's
By
not
the way,
JJ.
what do you think happens when you call 911 and you say it's a cop? You think they're going to come faster?
Oh yeah.
They did, and you
They
think
call everybody. I imagine they call
Right.
the chief within 2 seconds.
all hands on deck
Exactly.
when there's officer down, and that's fine. No one's criticizing that. And so her demeanor was just terrible, I thought, and she had that nasty edge to her. And then when you look at some of the substance on some really basic points, just on her direct, again, I mean, you don't even get to the cross yet, where I agree she's going to get just
Smoked.
obliterated to the point of, stop the fight kind of thing. But when she gives that testimony about the tail light and it was snow covered, maybe it's just me, maybe it's not the jurors. To me, I feel like everyone remembers when Lally tried to have that trooper look at it and it was snow covered, and everyone is trying to tell and that feels like a mid-trial adjustment. And one of the very interesting things is she testifies that this happened at John O'Keefe's house. When we got there right away, we went right to and then this guy plays the video of them arriving at the house, and it shows them go right in the house. I mean, he in his own case, he's kneecapping her, and because it feels like
Amazing.
it's so recently created, it's not in any of her prior statements, which is fascinating, by the way. Again, when you marshal all the evidence, that she had an epiphany to get Lank back at the house.
Yeah.
Say, oh my God, she said I hit him, but she doesn't say, oh my God, her taillight was cracked.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Right.
And I saw it. So what I think is going to happen, and this is where it's going to get really interesting. I know I would do this, and I assume that Alan Jackson would do this, is after you establish that she never told the police about seeing the taillight, and if you want to say establish it's not on the video, and it doesn't matter what she says, oh, the video must be missing, or maybe I made a mistake, it was somewhere else, whatever. I would ask her, when is the first time you told anyone in law enforcement about you and Karen looking at the taillight together after she told you? And you're going to find out it's going to be recent. It's going to be like one of these Julie Nagel epiphany.
New development. Yeah. New thought.
It's going to create it out of whole cloth. But I think what you're also going to find, my guess, is that the person she told was Lally, because this is recent and this is during their whatever they call trial preparation in their office. Not what we would call it for sure, but and that it came up, and did he prompt it? Is it because of they failed to get that trooper to identify the snow-covered taillight that they claim shows that it was broken before the cops could have had an opportunity to do that? And that's this is all just from her direct and her demeanor. And you haven't even gotten into all the stuff on cross, her own phone records, the Google search, the relationship with Proctor, this nonsense about I needed to see Julie Nagel's text messages. I mean, you could go on and on about the Google search happening, sitting in the car while she was praying, which, by the way, my understanding is she said it was as he was being put in the ambulance, which was way 6 minutes earlier. The ambulance was gone, and she'll say, I was confused. This is all wonderful if her goal is, say, I just want to get out of here and not get charged with perjury. But if you're the DA with a burden of proof beyond a reasonable doubt to a moral certainty, good luck.
Yeah. Now, something came up. There's been some new developments since Colin testified. Number one, Colin said he had no social media. But then they find a new Instagram post, which ties into this super chat we just got. Thank you, Keith McCarthy, for the super chat. And the question, he says, can married couples testify against each other if they are married after an alleged crime has committed? I think he's talking about Caitlin and Tristan, because apparently Colin announced that looks like they're getting engaged, Tristan and his girlfriend, Caitlin. What do you think about that? Is that something that would protect them or not?
Well, I don't think it matters for a couple of reasons. They've both testified, and given the Sergeant Schultz story, I know nothing. First of all, they weren't married when this happened. Now, there's two kind of marital privileges. One of them relates just to conversations with each other, and it's not really what they were testifying about anyway. So I don't know that would work. Now, the other one, some states do have this absolute bar for, being able to call the spouse. But to me, this is a non-starter, because the defense is not going to call Caitlin Albert. There's no reason to. They're not going to call Tristan.
Back up. What about the feds, though? What about if there was what if they were involved somehow?
Well, the federal privilege is for communications that were confidential in the course of the marriage, and of course, everything that happened here, they weren't married, so that's not going to do bubkiss for them in a federal investigation.
Very good question. I had no idea. This is why we have Attorney Bederow on the show. He's got the answers. Another question came in. What time do you think he was put outside? I mean, who knows? What do you think?
I don't know. I don't know even what the medical data says in terms of if they have even a guesstimate of how long it would have taken in those conditions, if he was put in the snow or outside with normal body temperature, how long to end up at the temperature. And of course, the other thing is that the temperature would have been taken when? I mean, at the hospital, I suppose, several hours later. And I mean, I don't think there's a perfect science to determining that. They'd have to also look at, the rigor mortis, the liver mortis, all the mortises, right? All the science stuff, and come up with some kind of best estimate, but I mean, just based on the data, it had to be sometime around 1 o'clock, give or take, at the earliest. And certainly, they found them at what time? Roughly
6 a.m. Yeah, 5 something. Yeah, 5,
I mean,
6 a.m.
you can narrow the window down, but the real question is how long if you believe that something happened in the house, how long did it take? How long was he there? Did they have to clean it up? Did they have to put him outside? And then again, it gets how gory is it? If you believe that there was this severe head trauma in the house and he ends up in the snow, I mean, I think we've all discussed that where's all the blood? I mean, if he was lying on his back, and I know there's an inconsistency there. Everybody says he was found on his back, but her phone call, interestingly enough, McCabe flips it, has it the other way. But if he's lying on his back with a gaping, bloody head wound for hours, you'd expect there would be blood out there, even if it does tend to freeze up and not be as maybe nasty a crime scene because of the cold weather. But they didn't really find enough blood out there if you believe that all that blood happened outside. And you can't ignore that all those weird things happened in the house. If you're the defense, the new flooring and all of that stuff, it's weird.
Another comment about Higgins' Jeep. I wonder if it has a bigger part in this case. It's mentioned so much, and why is it there and then gone? Go Celtics.
I don't know. To me, I mean, it's really weird. And what the way I thought about this the other day, and where I came out was, it was Lally flailing around, unclear, aware he wasn't being consistent, but trying to react to bad facts in live time, such as those witnesses that we previously referred to as the three amigos. They're pretty good witnesses for the defense in terms of, we saw her, we didn't see him, and she really didn't do anything other than drive forward and maybe move up once or twice and then drive away. So those witnesses, I believe, were all adamant that there were no other cars there. So if having Higgins's Jeep there, I wonder if that was an attempt, because this case is going so well, to, in essence, impeach indirectly his own witnesses, and being forced in a summation almost to pathetically argue they were doing their best. They're not bad people, but they're not reliable because they didn't see the car and don't remember. Other than that, it is bizarre. It has been a lot of back and forth testimony about Higgins's Jeep. And I know some of the Alberts mentioned it too. But as far as I can tell, the only people who don't see the Jeep are those three witnesses, who I think are actually much more favorable to the defense than the prosecution.
Excellent. We got a bunch of questions coming through. This is one I don't know if any of us know the answer. Maybe Mazza does. What is with the center console questions? I'm confused about that. I have no idea. I'm not sure what's going on with that. You have any clue on that, either one of you?
I don't know.
I have a guess, but this is pure guess. I don't know if, sometimes you can really slow down and zoom in video. And, the center console, I thought I read somewhere, almost has like an emergency brake deactivator or something that, for, if you have one of these cars, I mean, I have one of these, if you back up and you're going to hit something, normally the car will kind of like jerk to a stop if it detects something. And the only thing that I could think of is that, are they trying to suggest that she deactivated that feature in order to give O'Keefe's car a love tap?
Now, does, like, I have some like traction control in my car. You can turn it on or turn it off permanently. I turn it off because I don't like it. Is that something that you can turn off permanently, or is it something you have to turn off every time. Like, you know what I'm
I'm
saying?
not sure, but I think it's probably something you would have to turn off each time for the simple reason the car manufacturers are going to want you to have a default safety feature, right? I mean, I
Exactly.
think
Yep.
that's probably a default. I don't know. I mean, I'm not a car expert, but this, and he definitely said when you go look at the car,
Check that out. Yeah.
look at it. So, and I mean, the other thing somebody could do is if you just look up the specs manual for that model of a Lexus online, I'm sure you could see exactly what's in the center console. And my suspicion is something like that is, yep, somebody's saying that it has an override switch for exactly this. So points for me on that guess.
Yes.
There you go.
Pure guess. But I mean, and the other thing is this, though, I don't know that even if you had the video, whether you're going to be able to see like that low and see her hand manipulate a thing, or are you going to see her stare at it? And are you going to see the car come to a like double stop? I don't know. To me, it's, I mean, look, if I were the DA, I'd be interested in that too. But I don't know that that's going to get you across the finish line with all the other problems.
We got actually a couple questions about that center console. So people are definitely interested in that topic. I'm glad we
Well, they should be.
answered it.
I mean, he
Yeah.
specifically said, look at that, look at that. I mean, that makes no sense unless there's something there that they feel is significant, because obviously the interesting part of the car is the right rear taillight.
Well, Mazza mentioned earlier that he got a call today from England. We've been getting a
Yeah.
lot of calls from all over Europe, Portugal, Spain, England, New Zealand, and now Australia. We got Miss Shorty here who's just sent $14.99 in Australian. I don't know what do they call those, Outbacks or something.
I think they're dollars.
Yeah, dollars. Yeah.
They may be dollars.
I like
Yeah,
I
there we
like
go.
calling them Outbacks or something.
I don't know what they're worth, more or
Outbucks.
less, but I think
Yeah.
they're dollars.
She said, listen to Lurkin while standing in the cold and rain, working as a traffic controller in Melbourne. I say Melbourne. That's awesome. You're working and you're watching us in Melbourne. It sounds like you're at the airport. Are you at the? Is that what you mean by traffic controller? Air traffic controller, or like motor cars or something?
Maybe one of these. Like,
yeah,
if she's
airplane.
outside,
Send the plane that way.
if you're outside, yeah.
Yeah, it must be. That's pretty cool. Thank you so much for the donation and watching in Australia. We got more comments coming through. I'm just checking them out. Do you guys have anything you want to, Mazza? Do you have anything else you want to bring up tonight that you haven't got out yet today?
Well, beyond no, I think Alan Jackson's going to tear it up on Tuesday. I mean, that's the big thought I got right now is I just can't wait for Tuesday to come around. It'll be interesting to see if Auntie Bev wants to have that as a full day or an extended day beyond the half day that it's scheduled to be. She did mention that there could be some adjustment
On
there,
this
so we'll see.
Tuesday?
Yeah, she
No,
said
it's
to
going
the
to be a
jury,
half day. Yeah, it's
half
definitely
day
a half
official.
day. Yeah, but
Yeah.
she's saying like next week. Like she said,
Oh, I see.
she would let the jury know ahead of time and all that, and
Oh,
everyone
okay.
else. So tomorrow is
Okay.
definitely a half day. Or I'm sorry, not tomorrow. I keep thinking tomorrow's Tuesday. Tuesday is a half day.
Let's ask the real question though. Did you get a haircut, Mike? Did you get a
I
haircut?
did. I was going
Okay.
to take off my hat and everything, but
Okay. All right. There we go.
I'm
You look
all
freshened
cleaned
up.
up now.
I like it.
It's amazing. I had a great
I like
Saturday.
it.
Had time to do it. Yeah, yeah,
They may not finish if it's a half day Tuesday.
yeah. Yeah,
There's
I
still
wonder.
long.
Oh, what do you think? How long do you think it will go on Tuesday with Jennifer McCabe?
There's a lot of, I mean, see, what's interesting is there's multiple ways to do this. There is a school of thought that there are certain things. Let me back up. If you are 100% airtight, believing from the defense side that your computer expert, or not computer, your electronic Green, the guy who did the phones,
Rich Green, yeah.
if you are entirely satisfied that that is airtight and that the DA is delusional with their attempts to discredit that, then I'm not even sure how much you would ask McCabe about like the Google search. Now, as far as the deleted phone calls, clearly you would, because there was no discussion about that. And I would ask her about every single one. When you called, when you got, I mean, the one thing that sticks out to me is somebody sent her a photo at 6:08 in the morning. What could they be sending her a picture of when she just got there and all this is happening? And she's going to tell you, I don't remember. And she's going to say, I don't remember, as we're freaking out, finding our friend dead and all this, that Brian Albert sent me a photo at 6:08 a.m. and I deleted it, and I don't remember what it is, and I don't remember why I made all these phone calls. And she may deny deleting them. Fine. So, how much of the Google search, though, do you want to get into? Because she's just going to say, I made it at six whatever. Do you want to ask her about what I really was doing was searching for the basketball scores? I don't know if I would. I mean, she's locked in that I searched at 6 whatever. And if you have it confirmed and deleted at 2:27, it's a summation point. Again, under the theory, not everything lends itself to a Perry Mason moment. Now, there could be other Perry Mason moments with her, but I don't know that the Google search is one of them, because she's not backing down from that. And you're not going to shove a Celebrate record in her face. She's going to say, I don't care what that says, it's wrong. And, Mr. Lally's expert will tell you, in essence.
What if the Google search is like 6, whatever that is, 621 or whatever it is? What if she's not with Karen at that point?
That's a whole nother thing. So forget the Google stuff, but I would definitely, and by the way, there are rare times where I think open-ended questions are not a bad thing. Rare. And this may be one of those rare things, and say, tell us exactly what happened what was going on when you made the Google search, and just sit down and let her talk, because it didn't happen at 6:20. So just let her go. And she's going to say whatever she's going to say. And then you definitely would impeach her about, this statement to the female trooper about being in a police car with Karen, praying, the ambulance was doing this, and then break out the video and say, which car? There's only so many cars there. You're not on video. There goes the ambulance. Oh, by the way, what's the time? You see that time? And you say the Google search, the first one you made is this time. Those times are different, are they not? And, you don't dispute that, based on the records, that this had to be done at 6:00 whatever the second Google search is, 6:23, I think.
Yes. I think that's it.
Right. And then you just destroy her on that. And probably what she does is just say, you're wrong. I don't know. And I don't know why the trooper wrote that down. And I didn't tell her that. And it's a mistake. I mean, she's going to be flailing. And, you're going to hit her with so many other things, such as the other texts that she collected. Maybe she'll deny that. I don't know. But the Nagel girl said I gave him to her. She also denied hearing, they all denied hearing Nagel say there's a big black object lying over there. Break that down. There are so many ways to go after her with so many different things that I wouldn't be surprised if it doesn't even end on Tuesday.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. And I think she has her BS so ironed out. Like, she was so overly specific about everything. Like, she was giving like exact times, and it's one of those things where, okay, if you're gonna play it that way, where you have this whole story, I mean, you could have quizzed her like all this stuff, and she probably would have had some BS answer for every time. And it's going to come back to bite her, because when they start revealing videotapes to her and saying, well, you said at this particular time you were doing this, this, and that. Well, here's some videotape that shows that's not true. Right?
All I can say is, they have lawyers, clearly. They presumably, I mean, these are real lawyers, by the way, whether you like them or not. These are not incompetent lawyers that are representing the McAlberts, as you call them. They would have clearly had very unpleasant conversations, lawyer client. This kind of stuff goes on all the time about, the feds are watching and there's all this. And if, they have evidence that this was at 2:20, whatever, and it was deleted. And I have to think, even if incorrect and making a huge mistake, that her lawyer has to be satisfied that they can't prove the 227. And I don't know why they would be that confident, yet she testified clearly under oath that I didn't do that. And, we've talked about other witnesses, and there's always been a lot of questions about perjury, Katie McLaughlin. And I said, that's no way.
Yeah,
Zero
no, going nowhere.
ever. All of that little stuff. But I will tell you this, if there is testimony in a murder case where if that Google search was made at 227, the DA's entire case is blown out of the water, because that means that Jen McCabe and the one she's talking to are doing something very bad that they shouldn't be doing. Okay. Right. And so that's what lawyers who deal with perjury call a material issue of the highest level. And if it turns out that she gave intentionally false testimony about that critical issue, then, then I would say, unlike some of these other witnesses,
then she's screwed.
Terrified of perjury charges. If it can be proven. I mean, you have to demonstrate that the testimony is false. And all of these witnesses keep coming in and testifying. And in some ways, it's surprising to me. Now, the only reason that they may be getting or making a difficult decision that's the wrong decision is they're fighting a two-front war. And a lot of times you use bad judgment when you're thinking of other things other than your own criminal exposure. And it's pretty clear for the Alberts and McCabe's, they're fighting a two-front war because they're also defending their reputations. And they're offended because they're the so-called royalty of Canton, vomit, whatever. But that's how they view themselves, and that's how they hold themselves out. And, that's their town. Okay. And they don't want to be ostracized and ridiculed and accused of doing bad things. And you do see this from time to time where clients have unpleasant things. And if it's a high profile case or a high profile person, they're very concerned about their public persona, and it clouds their judgment as it relates to the criminal case. You see this with Donald Trump is a perfect example of this.
Colonel Jessup and A Few Good Men.
Yeah. Or exactly. P. Diddy right now, Puff Daddy.
But what I'm saying is Trump I just was talking to the Wall Street Journal about this the other day. He has no business testifying. I mean, for a lot of reasons, which probably nobody here whatever your politics are, you don't need to hear.
Yeah.
But politically, he runs the risk of looking weak, in terms of voters saying you're a blowhard, you're always talking, but now's your chance, you don't. And the lawyer wants to be in a position to say, sir, you can't testify. You shouldn't. And but what if I have to? Now, he's not going to testify, but what he's going to do is blame his lawyers if he gets convicted. I should have, and I would have been acquitted. You have to wonder, as it relates to the McCabe's and Alberts, if there's some of that if they took the fifth, their reputations are destroyed. I mean, at that point, they're entitled to the constitutional protection that the Fifth Amendment affords them. But, let's go to Wendy World for a minute. And in this instance, she's right. If you're a witness in a criminal case and not the defendant, and you're taking the fifth over whether you're looking up how long it takes to die in the cold at 2:27 a.m., then I will, I'll agree with Wendy that makes McCabe look like she's hiding something and guilty about something. And reputationally, they're never going to recover from that. And I wonder if that's clouding their judgment.
Oh, definitely. And
somebody else just stole my thunder again in the comments. You sprinkle some arrogance on that, which they clearly are.
Oh yeah.
It becomes a toxic formula that, I'm gonna get through this. And
that's why they spend all their time, I'm convinced, with the troll accounts attacking us all,
the
lawsuits and all this other crap.
I'm not predicting anybody gets charged of perjury or anything like that, but she's going to get clobbered on this stuff. And either way, if they think they're going to look good after this,
Yeah.
I mean, they put her screeching face on the cover of the Herald today.
Oh, did they? I missed
Oh,
it.
did
I
they?
didn't check that out.
Oh my
Nice.
God. There was an
The
article.
one when she was yelling, like, with the mouth
They
open.
said the yelling face. And there
Oh,
was
beautiful.
that's what
Yeah.
it was.
Oh,
And
beautiful.
there was
Yes.
A demon.
a
Took
full
like
spread.
Zool, Ghostbusters.
I mean,
Jen McCabe, only Zool.
Finally, one of the newspapers figured it out. You need to put
it
these people in
was
the
a
paper every
Howie
day.
Carr column,
Howie Carr, yeah.
and he just tore them to.
I did see Howie's column. That was great.
And I saw he referenced the Packy. I got a kick out of that because we've been joking about this sounds so towny.
I swear to God, reading some of it, I was like, is he watching us? Because there were some things in there. Yeah.
What did he say? The only time they ever left Canton was to go to the Packy and
yeah.
I mean, I mean, it was pretty brutal.
It was a good one. It was a good one.
My point is, that's the kind of stuff that's going to bother them. I mean, reputation damage, but the reality is they're none of these people on either side of this are really going to recover this perfectly reputationally. I mean, even if Karen gets acquitted, the only way that she's going to really regain her complete reputation is that if this scandal blows up into what people have
people get arrested. If other people get arrested, that's
but arrested for murder.
Exactly. Yep. Chrissy writes, Mark, if you were doing the cross on Tuesday, what would be your first question for Jen McCabe?
That was my question. So there we go. Thank you, Chrissy.
Well, it's interesting because there are multiple theories. Do you come out and club someone over the head right away, or do you kind of build up to it? I'm not usually a fan of what these guys have been doing with this. Is there anything you want to change? To tell you the truth, with McCabe, that may very well be a good starting point, and lock her down and say that, there's nothing that's any different. A lot of people like to ask, again, if it's not the sexy start, how many times have you prepped with the DA? And, again, with this recent Lally with the taillight, but if it were me, I would come out swinging hard at her right out of the gate. You can ask some great questions, get an answer, and let it sit and come back to it later. I mean, if you really want to club her in the head, you could come out and ask her, did you delete any phone activity on June 29th from the hours of 4:50 a.m. until 8:58 a.m., anything, and see what she says. And if she says yes, right out of the gate, the jury's like, well, what the hell is what's going on here? And if she says no, she's telegraphing for you. She wants to do this the hard way. And then I would move into another topic and come back to it. But, you might want to jar her right out of the gate.
Amazing. I can't wait to see what they do with it.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, I'm sure it's going to be really good.
Haley's got a comment tonight. Haley says, I think we need to get Kevin Linehan to join to say you have no critical or logical thinking skills. He can answer all of your questions with more questions and explain how you're all zombies.
Which one is he? Because I have a few of them.
He's the Yellow Cottage Tale guy. He's
the man from Yellow Cottage Tale.
Yeah, you haven't experienced the true Kevin yet.
Haley's the best. I love Haley.
And just again, for purposes of keeping this all clear, correct me if I'm wrong, but he is the one who had the car diagram on court.
Yes.
Honestly, I'm not.
Yellow Cottage fail.
He's the one who thinks Grant's a great journalist.
I'm not going to say that's the equivalent of like Duke lacrosse truther, but that diagram is a very discrediting starting point for any conversation.
Oh, what a joke. I mean, he has all the worst people on his show. Tonight he's got an attorney on his show, which is, but I don't know. I mean, he's no Mark Bederow, his attorney. What do you think about his attorney?
Look, they're real lawyers. I mean, they can disagree. It's fine.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess the first question would be, does he have any interest in the case? I mean, obviously you want to know if that's what all these guys were accusing me of. They think you're paying me, by the way.
Yeah, I'm paying you.
And then when they were done mocking
Well, let's hold
you,
on.
they were
If you
asking
are paying
me.
him,
I
Mike, I
should
want to
be
know
paying you.
because
You've been bringing in the box,
No,
Mark.
when
no, if you're paying
when
him and not me, I got a problem, Mike. That's what
they
I'm saying.
were accusing me of getting paid and then mocking me for going on this and because
Because I'm a dog walker.
that's right. That's right.
Classism. Go with the classism.
Oh my God.
Like I was a better person when I was a white collar. Come on.
And
It's so
then
stupid.
one of these guys started Googling an old case I had about
Yeah, what was that about?
it's just weird. And then they just discredit themselves. He says, you represent, he looks like the kind of guy, you represent him like, well, yeah, that's what lawyers do. They represent people. And he actually, for a period of time, had his conviction reversed. And, most people, it's a very high profile case. And most people actually believe he's wrongfully convicted. But other than that, I'll go back to just being a scumbag. I mean, what can I say?
Like you care. The Zonker barstool guy.
Oh my
He's
God.
such a loser.
And then he's kind of like hot and cold. And then he calms down.
Yeah.
I don't
Oh
know
yeah.
if it's like meds or something.
Yeah, he
But
needs meds.
I don't know. And then he gets like passive
He gets
aggressive.
manic. He's a manic dude.
Well, I keep telling him, I'm like, guy, if you want to have like a normal conversation, then stop being a putz and we'll talk. But oh, that's a good question.
Yeah, what do you think about it?
Well, yeah. The advantage that the defense gets, and you don't get that many at a trial. I mean, the deck is normally stacked against you generally, is that in this case, having these prosecution witnesses, they're all helping the defense.
Right.
And if nothing else, their expert, he apparently wrote a report after he like an article report, not his report to the DA, which may actually support the defense. I didn't read it that carefully, but I was trying to fully understand the science of it, which, that's not my strong point. This like ultra technical nerd data is like when I get an expert and say, you tell me kind of thing. I'm not an expert by any stretch in it, but the other advantage of having their expert going first and you having your own, and this is a resource thing too. So lucky for her, she has all these resources, but your own expert, you share the DA's report and how do I cross? Like, how do I tell me why you're right and he's wrong, or where you can agree and I can get to where I need to get. And for example, if their own expert can say that 227 was deleted, but the 623 and 624 were not, well, doesn't that by process of elimination tell you then that's got to be different? Were all these phone calls deleted or not? I mean, and if he says yes, you're still getting someplace. So I think that you definitely would use their expert as best you can to definitely, use to your advantage for sure.
Great question comment here from My Miracle Mama. She asks, I love your commentary. Do you ever worry your expert opinions are being watched by her, like right now, and that she can get ideas or any criminals in any other cases? Anyway, love you guys. So, Sean, I think she's talking about Jen McCabe. Sean McDonough does a show, and he basically said he was shutting down until Tuesday morning because he didn't want to give Jennifer McCabe any advice because they are all watching her shows. What do you think on that?
I mean, look, I'm not officially, on a side. I mean, I happen to agree analytically and intellectually with the people who think this case stinks, but I don't want to consider myself literally, because I just look at it and opine on it. So from my perspective, I have nothing to hide. I'm just analyzing what's out there. But the other thing is, what could Jennifer McCabe possibly do
right
by looking at the internet when she's under cross now, has completed her direct, and these reports are going to say whatever they say. So I get, the blackout, if you will, until like the news blackout until Tuesday. But I think, I mean, you never want to underestimate your opponent or whatever, But if you think Jennifer McCabe is going to, solve the crisis with her cross-examination by trolling around the internet and seeing what lawyers and experts are saying, no.
Yeah,
I agree.
exactly. I there's just too much of a hole for her to get out of that. I don't think anyone can help her out of that hole.
2 words, Alan Jackson.
Right?
Translation,
Exactly.
she's screwed, just like Stephanie said
Yeah,
in the comments.
exactly. That's the key, right? Tolerant writes, what if John was a CI, confidential informant for the FBI to uncover Boston PD corruption, and Higgins got word to Brian Albert, and the plan was hatched to blame the flower driver until Jen stepped in? I mean, I'm just going to say that's a lot of what ifs and
it's a
not backed
stretch.
by any info. Like I mean, it sounds like it could happen. It's definitely possible, but where's the beef? Where's the evidence of it? What do you think, Attorney Bederow?
I mean, again, it's just pure speculation. So the answer is I don't know what's happening or not happening. But look, in order for the defense theory that he was killed in the house to hold water, if you will, there has to be some crazy, as of yet undetermined reason. Now, again, they don't have to establish that. They don't even have to establish that he was killed in the house. I mean, this is a reasonable doubt game, which is also a lot of what these people who attack, I keep trying to remind them that you're keeping score about, I hate her, she's guilty, this, that. But if there's reasonable doubt, that's the only goal of the exercise for the jury. And the irony is, if she gets acquitted on reasonable doubt, which will probably happen, and nothing is solved, then you're going to keep yelling at everyone anyway, and nothing's going to change other than she was acquitted. But I don't know what could have led to it. I think what's interesting is, they left the bar and Karen left the house within a period of like 40 to 45 minutes. So whatever was going on was pretty fast moving. And I mean, that doesn't mean what time he was actually killed, but we're speculating. I just don't know.
Yeah. Michelle J says the attorney was horrible. I'm pretty sure she's talking about the attorney that was on Yellow Cottage tonight. There were 2 Kevins on that show. If one Kevin wasn't bad enough, you had 2 Kevins on the show.
Who was the? I mean, look,
Kevin Mahoney. You know him? I don't know. Sure.
Kevin J. Mahoney.
I don't know. I mean, look, I'm not a Boston lawyer, obviously, but I think I know who he is. He's a real lawyer. I mean,
no, he's definitely a real lawyer. I just didn't think he was very entertaining, or like, it wasn't.
I haven't seen him talk about it, and
as he was holding the phone to, like, you could tell, like, it was.
I guess what I find interesting is, because obviously I'm interested in hearing what real lawyers think. I don't know how anybody who does this for a living, particularly without that just perma prosecution bias, as opposed to like ex-prosecutors and whatnot. I don't know how anyone who does this at a high level for a living can say with a straight face. Now, again, I'm not criticizing him or his views, but it's just surprising to me that they would find this to be a strong case, because this is absolutely, whether she's guilty or not, literally, it is a terrible criminal case. It was constructed terribly. It wasn't investigated that seriously. I mean, to make an arrest in a couple of days without, we've talked about this before, closing the door on some of this information, and then indicting without ever figuring out what the hell was going on with the Alberts and McCabe's and their weird behavior. To me, this is a case that never should have even been indicted. They had every right to investigate her and suspect her. I get it. I mean, that's a logical thing to say, maybe she ran him over, but how you all look at each other as prosecutors and say, we're doing this, I think is disgraceful, just based on the lack of evidence. And then as it goes on and you learn that the federal experts are all going to march into court, like the March of the Chuckleheads, one after the other, and say, we did this thing and it's not consistent. Okay, thank you. Next,
Yeah.
we did this and da 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 da. And by the way, we testify for the government. Next, I mean, at what? And the only reason they were, and this is the other thing. Why do you think the feds got 3 of these? Because the first one, they were probably like, wow, that, maybe we didn't expect that. Get another one.
Yeah.
Same thing. Wow. Bring in another one. And at that point, you know what? When it walks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, it's usually a duck.
Speaking of quacking like a duck, Kevin Mahoney, the attorney, went to New England Law School where Wendy teaches. And his new book is coming soon. It's called the Title IX Sexual Harassment Handbook. Do you think he's got some ties to Wendy Murphy?
Well, probably yes.
Yeah.
I mean, again, I don't know. And that's very interesting. And I don't know how any credentialed lawyer would sully themselves by being associated with her. But, maybe
who knows?
Maybe it's a business arrangement. I don't know. I mean, maybe she still somehow is deemed credible in the world of sexual assault victims, although I can't imagine I can't imagine she would. But the bottom line is any real lawyer who does this for a living, I can't believe it. And especially lawyers who are ex-prosecutors who have seen this from both sides. And I've even chatted about this case with current prosecutors in New York, not Massachusetts. And granted, they're just getting the Reader's Digest version. But when you start telling them about the phone calls, the federal experts, all the Proctor texts and all that, and they all look at you like you have 3 heads when you try to tell them that, they're going forward. And then they watch 5 minutes of the DA's opening statement and they just say, oh, my God. How is this the guy who's going to somehow prove this case when there's no evidence and there's no breathing prosecutor, basically?
Yeah. We just got a super chat from a superstar. Amazing. Melanie Little, attorney Melanie Little just sent $20 to the Young Jerks. Thank you so much, attorney Melanie Little. She says, and it's something that Melanie and I actually have in common. She's talking about here. She's just here to say hi. She wants everyone to know she's not Haley, which I know that she is not Haley. We all know that. If anyone with a brain knows that. But she said she's honored to receive a mention in Degenerate to receive defamation lawsuits by Kim Fair, which I'm also on that. She says, careful, Bederow, they're coming for you next. Keep fighting the good fight at the Young Jerks. Thank you so much, attorney Melanie Little. What do you have to say, Mr. Bederow? She brought you up.
I mean, look, all I'm doing is adding basic analysis. I'm not some paid whore. I have no business arrangement. I've never met Karen.
You haven't asked me for any money yet.
And I won't.
They're working on the invoice for you there, Mike.
I know, right? You're the biggest Young Jerks fundraiser.
Billable hour rate, and then I'm gonna own the podcast.
Yeah, right. I don't think I can afford you. I'd be like, can we get any cheaper lawyers on here?
But I'm doing this for this reason, for that reason, and you're sullying yourself. I'm like, fellas, they're just opinions. You don't like them. They're based in reason. You can agree or disagree. Why that turns into, just get out of your mother's basement and move on. And this
touch grass.
This other one that you mentioned,
Kimberly.
Yeah, her posts are just.
She's got 2 open lawsuits against her right now.
Oh,
let me guess, defamation.
Yes. If she's speaking that everyone else is getting sued, she's actually being sued.
I think didn't she get bagged in like a
we're not gonna we're gonna hold on.
Okay, don't say it. Okay, I'll hold on.
There's gonna be something coming out on her.
I mean, look, I guess the last point I would say is this. This is the weirdest case I've ever seen, in the sense I've never seen people who want to beat each other up, who are not involved in the case. They're watching it, And it's a perfect storm of bad because a lot of the people on the other side, they're pure emotional. Okay. They're not overly intelligent, but they'll tell you they are. I mean, it's
Yeah.
very similar to Wendy
Yeah.
Murphy,
Yeah.
right? I mean, she's an idiot, but she'll tell you, I mean,
How smart she is.
it's a form of gaslighting.
Smart people never tell you how smart
Right.
they are.
I mean, she'll tell you that you're an idiot and a
Yeah.
moron, and she knows, and you're sitting there saying, "My God, this woman is so stupid." The irony is choking me.
Kim is that. I mean, it's just
But there's a lot of them, but they're so angry, and they send you messages when you simply say something that they don't agree with, and they just come swinging.
Yep.
There's this built-up rage and nastiness. Half of them hide behind fake names and pictures. And when they ask me if I have any financial interest or whatever, I ask them, "What's your interest?
Yeah. Who are you?
Why are you so?" And they don't really say anything. And they never, well, not never, but most of them don't respond with any logical response other than basically, you're an idiot, you're a hack, you're a grifter. I don't think you're a very good lawyer. And I Googled an old case of yours, and that looks like the kind of guy that you would represent. And like, you're kind of proving my point here. It's whatever.
Yeah, they're it's funny too, because they got nothing. Like Kimberly Fair, when she put out what Melanie's talking about, the defamation lawsuits, I saw that. I usually don't even check her stuff out, but people send it to me and I said, all right, I gotta see this one. So I go on her Twitter, right? And there's like 4 comments there saying, "Oh my God, I follow most of these people. I didn't realize I'm missing a few. They're all awesome. Thanks for letting me know." So she basically making fans for us. The more she talks about us, the more follows we get. Like she's actually promoting us.
I'm sure Melanie would agree because she has a somewhat similar background. I mean, I grew up in very sharp elbowed courtrooms in Manhattan, and when I went into private practice, it gets even sharper elbowed when you go to Brooklyn and places like that. And you get a lot of callous when you deal with that. So having a bunch of keyboard warriors complain and yell and whatever doesn't do anything. Mazza, I have to tell you, the Denver Nuggets are eliminated. They're out.
I know. I've had it on. Yeah.
That's everything's falling into place here. Okay.
Kyrie Irving versus the Celtics in the championship.
Oh, is that what's going on?
It could be.
Oh boy, that would be an eruption. So I was going to ask you both that. Like, what are your Celtics predictions? Game 1 is Tuesday night. What's going to happen here?
Yeah. The Celtics are going to beat the Pacers in about 6. And I think it's going to be the Wolves, honestly. The Wolves, I'll tell you one thing right now. The Celtics better have Porzingis healthy because they're going to have their hands full against Siakam and Miles Turner and the Pacers. And if they go to the finals against the Wolves, they're going to deal with Gobert and Towns. They can handle Halliburton. They can handle Ant-Man. They can handle Kyrie Irving or Doncic if they have to face them, but it's the bigs you got to worry about. So they need Porzingis healthy because him and Horford, they should be in Cornet. They should be able to hold it down against any bigs they go up against. But Celtics should go all the way. Porzingis just needs to be healthy.
They should, although not having Porzingis against Indiana is concerning because Indiana has Miles Turner who chucks out threes and hangs out up top, and Al Horford. Love that guy, but he's old, limited minutes, and you're not going to have Luke Cornett running around the 3-point line, and I agree with you 100% that it probably will be Minnesota. And if it is, that is a double-headed monster, and you need the big guy at the rim. You just do. But I think they're going to win, and the formula is working so far. I always say I think they're going to win. During the games, I bitch and moan and think they're going to lose. They win, and then I've actually gone to a lot of games this year, my son and I. So we'll be at game 2, as I told you the other night. So I'll be in Boston for 4 or 5 days.
Nice.
That's going to be good, and hopefully. We haven't been to a loss yet this year. We've been to like 8 games, I think, and they're.
We're gonna get you to every game here on out. Then we're gonna pick it for every game, then, Mark.
Yeah, well, we should arrange that because I know we love going. So.
You went to the Cavs game, right? Because the Cavs had won. You were waiting on the Cavs to win that game. Oh,
no, we went to game 1 against Miami. We actually went.
Oh, okay.
And then we went to, quite a few regular season games. And of course, we go in Madison Square Garden in New York. We go to Brooklyn. We went to Washington. I mean, we've been all around.
Nice. That's awesome.
So getting a lot of instant feedback on here. The little Boston, who is a caller often, she said they're blowing the case on purpose. She thinks they're blowing the case on purpose.
No,
we don't believe that, though.
No,
right?
I mean, I know it looks like the case gets worse and worse every day, and how could they be this incompetent? And sometimes the right answer is the obvious answer that's staring at you right in the face. I think Lally's out of his depth. I think he has a terrible case. I think he must at least emotionally know that. I don't know his personality, but he sulks around the courtroom and he has the body language of, a wet loaf of bread, basically. He just looks like he's not into it, but he's trying. Don't think for a minute he's not trying. I mean, he snuck in with the judge's permission, all of this nonsense about, the poor Alberts and McCabe's. That's not somebody who's not trying is not doing that. He's misled on certain evidentiary things and misstated evidence. That's not somebody who's not trying. He files all these pretrial motions. I mean, look, he's just not up to it. And the case stinks. And it is what it is. But the way to get themselves out of trouble is not to try the case and have witnesses call and say things that are potentially perjurious and could potentially subject you to suborning perjury. Okay. The way to avoid the federal problem, if that's what they're worried about, is to punt, dismiss, and don't make it worse. Okay. If you think the feds are going to appreciate him trying her, they're not. Number one, what if she gets convicted, which I don't think will happen, but that's bad. What if all of this other evidence is coming out and you're making it worse? You could be suborning perjury, further obstruction of justice, all of that. If you want to impress the feds, you do what they suggested you do, which is probably at a minimum wait until we sort this out and strongly consider dismissing the case. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know how they even try this case in good faith, whatever they think. I mean, they know more about the reports from the federal, the ones the feds use on the, the reconstruction people. If those reports are unimpeachable, and I don't know that they are, I don't know if there's loopholes or errors or whatever. It's hard to believe 3 of them. But if they conclude that we can't get past that report, then they are morally and ethically obligated to pick up the white flag, wave it, and say, we're out of here. Because whatever we think of her, you can't, if they can't destroy those reports, that is literally the definition of reasonable doubt. I mean, if you have experts who come in and who are credible and say it could not have been this, and then you do it again, and just to be safe, you do it one more time.
Yeah.
And the fact that they don't even have an expert is pathetic. And I wonder if they don't have an expert for a very simple reason. When they talk to an expert or seek one out, do you want to be that expert who says, well, they have 3 experts on the other side who are credentialed who say there's no way? It's not happening. I mean, it's kind of like in medical malpractice cases where sometimes it's hard for a plaintiff to get a doctor to sign off, which is a requirement. They don't want to crap on other doctors.
Yes. Haley posted another comment. He said he wanted to make sure people know he's not, or she's not Melanie Little. I'm kind of giving it away. But Haley,
there's some things out there about Kim Fair that I found.
But so we were kind of talking among ourselves about some stuff that's leaked behind the scenes, but we're waiting for Haley. Haley's going to put out something on Kim Fair very soon, which should be very entertaining and a lot of good new information. Thank you, Haley, for the donations tonight. I hope I didn't blow your cover. Definitely not. Definitely not Melanie Little, though.
By the way, can I just say, I'm not really too much into all of this wacky sideshow stuff.
The doxing,
but I do find a guilty pleasure that there are a certain few of these lunatics who are obsessed with unmasking.
Yeah, Haley.
And I know you were in this country, and I know, and then I think in the span of 1 week, I
Yeah.
saw Grant, and if I'm wrong, correct me, flat out say, "I know you're Melanie Little.
Yeah.
I know you're Karen Reed." That was
Yeah. Yeah.
and there was someone else. The
Olivia,
best part
probably.
would be if you're really Wendy Murphy and
Yeah.
Grant went after that would be great. But
Pull off the mask and it's Wendy. But
he's
yeah,
he's
I've been accused of being Haley.
it's
There's been like a dozen people I know who have been accused of being Haley, and none of them who have been accused of being Haley are Haley.
why
So,
do
I
they
mean,
care?
I
This is
know.
what I don't understand. What is it?
Juvenile.
It's nuts.
Well, they thought Mazda Media was Paul Cristoforo, so they're just throwing out everything. I was
Yeah.
apparently Richie from Turtle Boy
Yep.
Daily News. They've been saying out a
Heard
few
that one.
names about me over the years. It's been pretty funny.
Yeah.
It's good to see them have a good time, and these people have nothing else to do in their lives, so they just try to figure out. When they were trying to figure out who Olivia was, I came up with 4 potential suspects. I thought she could have been Buffy the Vampire Slayer, portrayed by Sarah Michelle Gellar, Katniss Everdeen from Hunger Games, Wonder Woman, played by Gal Gadot, and my 4th guess was actually that Olivia was Olivia. That was my 4th guess. I think
Wow.
that's the right one.
That would be a big one.
Yeah.
It's so funny too, because there'll be a lot of new accounts that come up on Twitter, and sometimes they're free Karen Reed actually, and I get accused of being them all the time. They're like, "This is Crawford's new burner account." It's like I have another account called Mike Can Boston with like 12,000 followers or whatever. I don't even use that one. I don't even log into it. I can't keep track of more than one account. Like
one is
one is enough.
One of these wackies today, I mean, I saw, you get these notifications when they're basically talking about you, and you're like, wow. Accused someone who said something nice of it was my burner account.
Yeah.
And I just like,
you don't have time for that.
God, not only do I not have time for that, I'm just some random lawyer here doing my own thing. I assure you, I have no burner.
Right.
Accounts.
That's what I'm saying.
When I, become, hit over 20 million people, I'll make a burner account. Okay. My God.
Yeah. That's the only reason you would do that. It's just like you want privacy and maybe view the world without people know who you are. But all right. Another comment came in, said, Mark, what did you mean when you said the judge lost control this week?
She let in evidence, which is not evidence, really. I mean, it was completely irrelevant and potentially prejudicial, related to feel bad for the Alberts and the McCabe's because they claim they were being harassed, and it never should have come in. And more importantly, the legal mechanism to let it in, which would have been if the defense had, again, what lawyers call open the door by essentially implying something that the prosecution felt now was necessary to rebut with their own, then that's a common legal principle that there a lot of times when evidence is not permitted, if the party opens the door, the judge will allow it. So the analysis, the law that she was theoretically using is sound, but her reasoning was awful, and what to me was just a complete surrendering of common sense. So what happened was Yannetti was asking Allie McCabe, I think, the daughter, about on cross that she hadn't provided the text message exchange that she had with Colin Albert to the police for a period of several months. Okay. And so the implication being, if you knew you had this important evidence, why didn't you tell the cops? And her response, which by the way, was completely proper and good. I see, I'm honest. See, no one's listening on the other loony side. She gave a perfectly good answer to rebut that argument, which was, at the time, nobody had any idea that, you were accusing Colin of doing anything. He wasn't even being mentioned. So there was nothing to turn over. You know what I mean? And so that was a good answer. It was a proper answer. And that's the end of the issue. And then out of nowhere, and this was the really interesting part. So Lally, on his redirect, without seeking permission from the judge to inquire whether the door had been opened, which is concerning if I'm the defense, because for why he would have thought logically that the door was open and that she would agree was crazy, starts asking about all the harassment. And the argument is, well, you were trying to suggest that she didn't turn over the Colin Albert stuff. And the reason was because they were getting harassed. This is like really disconnect, makes no sense. And so you allow all this irrelevant evidence in, and the concern is that when these witnesses start saying, I'm getting harassed, the concern is that the jury is under the belief that they blame the defendant, which would be highly prejudicial. And that the prosecution believes that already, because every time they write something about this, crazy Turtle Boy witness harassment, they always add in that we believe that he was conspiring with her and her attorneys, which is, an outrageous accusation to make without actual proof. Just because they talked is not proof of anything. And, so far there's been no limiting instruction either sought or given to make sure they don't hold it against them. But to me, that was the judge just completely losing control. I mean, she just lost any sense of common sense. And that was a terrible ruling. And they came back the next day, thought maybe after a night's sleep, maybe she'd think about it and, reevaluate. And instead she doubled down much more forcefully, saying, I don't even want to hear this. You're wrong. Done. Next. And the only thing that's surprising is I'm stunned that because the door was open, according to the judge, which again, it shouldn't have been, that they didn't go hardcore with McCabe. And I would have expected her to just go off the rails with the Turtle Boy. I get followed, I get threatened, I get this. And they didn't. And I wonder if he didn't, if because he read the temperature in the room and saw that emotionally, she's just kind of like an ice queen. I mean, she has it looked to me, it's just my opinion. People can disagree. It doesn't matter. But she looked just devoid of any sincere emotion. She was attempting and saying it was emotional, but I didn't see it. And what I saw was somebody who looked like they were trying to muster up tears and couldn't.
Exactly. Not a good actor.
No.
They're not able to tap into emotions.
No.
This is a good comment here. Question. Jessica Machado has a restraining order, a HPO protection order, harassment protection order against Grant Smith Ellis. He's appealing it. He's claiming anti-SLAPP. The anti-SLAPP law in Massachusetts is really weak, actually. I've looked into it. It only really seems to protect journalists if it's a public debate about something that's going to be voted on, someone who's being elected. I'm not sure like anti-SLAPP's going to protect them. What do you think, Attorney Bederow?
I think the apple, doesn't fall far from the tree. Obviously his mother is an expert in frivolous responses in litigation and whatnot. And the idea that he's claiming that this was filed against him to somehow censor him or kick him out of court, which I'm assuming you're saying it's a SLAPP suit.
Yes.
So I don't look at it, but that it's
he's saying an anti-SLAPP defense on the HPO, which is
okay. So, and that's a way to, censor me from court, and it's to harass me. This is outrageous. I mean, you have a female reporter who there's video of it, dummy. Like, if you're a law student, be smart. Don't do this on video. You see her raw emotion, okay, that she's very upset about what he was doing to her. And you see Grant acting like a lunatic on the video and talking about, his chair and my line and you assaulted me and this and that. And so to turn this into that she somehow manufactured this as a way to exclude him and whatnot, it's sad. I mean, this guy needs to find something better to do with his time. And I wouldn't even be surprised if he doesn't get a protective order at all and he just continues to be banned. But I mean, to accuse her of making up this as a way to just kick him out of
She
court.
doesn't. She's not trying to silence him. She doesn't give two shits about him. She just wants to do her job without harassment.
She just wants to be there without him
Yeah.
there potentially assaulting her. And she's
Exactly.
scared to be around him. And she's a reporter and has a right to be there. And if you assault her, Grant, so-called journalist that you are, you don't have a right to be there. It's really quite simple.
Yeah. Somebody else. We'll get back to that. Actually, there's another comment said, "Why no expert on JM's Google search?"
Go Wolves. Ooh, okay. Well, maybe if they beat Kyrie Irving, I think Mazda, that's okay. I mean, but
Yeah, I don't feel like seeing Kyrie Irving in the championship after all the stuff. He really disappointed us here, and we really thought he was going to be a great piece of this team, and he just went
oh
on
my
to do what he
God,
did. I think he hated Stevens.
Will you guys keep me for life? And he makes me sick.
Yeah.
Why no expert on Jen McCabe's Google search? Well, they do have an expert.
Not yet on the stand. Yeah.
Oh no, not yet.
Yeah.
I mean, look, part of the problem is the whole disjointed way that the DA has tried the case. They probably, if they were going to use McCabe, she's about 34 witnesses too late. And they let a lot of bad stuff come in about her beforehand, which makes her look worse before they even hear a word from her. At some point, they're going to try to justify the electronic data, so they will have an expert. But I don't expect it to be all that compelling. And here's the other problem the DA has: if the jury can't decide what to believe, in other words, it's possible that McCabe searched it at 227. Well, who does that benefit? It benefits the party without the burden of proof, clearly. And if that's a wash, that's a win for the defense. I mean, the only way the DA benefits from this is if they conclusively establish that there was no 227 search. She didn't do this before. Because if the jury is left wondering and says, well, McCabe could have searched it at 227, that is one of the facts of the case that is a game over fact. I mean, I think anyone, even on the other side,
Reasonable doubt, right?
would understand that if Jennifer McCabe is searching how long to die in the cold 2 hours before Karen Reed ever called her, then that means Jennifer McCabe knows that O'Keefe is in the snow. She probably knows why he's in the snow. All of a sudden, those phone calls that Brian Albert claims are butt dials that were made, by the way, immediately before 227, I believe, like 223, 224. All of a sudden, the dam just bursts with all this and the case is over. So they need to have conclusive proof that the defense is wrong. And
Impossible. It's pretty much impossible. So,
I don't know how they're going to do that. And
right.
To me, somebody just mentioned in the chat, I think, which I finally learned how to look at, by the way, like 2 times ago, that her deletions, we talked about this earlier tonight, they're all the relevant time period from when, something was hitting the fan here. And
exactly.
And to me, it's probably worth repeating. I actually find it worse for her that every single communication from whatever time it starts at, right up until she meets with Lank, is gone. That is a panic deletion, mass deletion. Get rid of it all. We used the Lorraine Bracco analogy again when you were in here earlier, Mazza, like from Goodfellas, where she's cutting up the cocaine, freaking out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That is
we were talking about that on the show a couple weeks ago, I think.
Nope,
yeah.
That is
The moment.
And I think the timeline fits so poorly for them because, by my recollection, and if I'm wrong, I'm sure I'll hear it from somebody, Lank was basically there a minute or two later. And of course, that's when she remembers to tell about what Karen said about the taillight, but not apparently to tell Lank, oh, by the way, I saw the taillight. And if you'll pardon me for the snow, other than that, she showed me it was broken. I'm telling you, it makes no sense that she would remember to tell Lank that, she heard her make a statement, but not she showed me the taillight, because that would be pretty powerful stuff. And she didn't do it, apparently.
Ask Bob's got a good comment. He said, Mike and Mark, Stephen Nelson, the victim advocate, told Albert and Higgins to destroy their phones, acting for Morrissey. Nelson is in big trouble if he doesn't give up Morrissey. I mean, what do you think about that?
That's outrageous. There's this really ugly concept of spoliation of evidence that lawyers talk about, where lawyers, advise other lawyers, be on notice. We intend to subpoena and you're on notice not to delete, whatever. This, though, see, I wasn't aware of this. This now makes perfect sense to me. This is the kind of thing that the feds would be salivating about, because if you want to talk about obstruction of justice, you can't telegraph a more open and shut obstruction of justice than if some goon at the DA's office is telling material witnesses in a murder investigation to literally destroy evidence. And if this was on behalf of Morrissey, whatever that means, I don't know if you just mean he's an employee or literally on the order of Morrissey. These people this Nelson guy, whoever he is, absolutely would be in the crosshairs of the feds if he literally instructed witnesses to torch their phones. And then, oh, by the way, you don't have Brian Albert's phone, as you know, and you don't have Higgins's phone. And, what if that contains exculpatory evidence that would free a defendant? And then the next question is, did this individual, if he really told them to get rid of their phones, did he review them first? Does he know what's on them? Does he actually, this could be a double whammy. Not only are you destroying evidence, but this could also be a Brady violation if the DA, and he's an agent of the DA's office, so that counts. If he knows that there was evidence favorable to the defense and instructed intentionally to have, these guys destroy their phones, then that is beyond outrageous. And once again, the lawsuit that will file when this is all over, that would be the DA's office and the taxpayers of many different city, towns, counties, and states paying a lot of money, because that would be just an egregious civil rights violation if they intentionally destroyed favorable evidence like that.
Sue had a comment. She's got 10 euros from Sue. Thank you so much. Another European said, hello. Can you explain some of the connections between JO and the feds that I've been seen in the chat? Did I see that Jen McCabe had an affair with Brian Albert? That's gossip. Don't know. A lot of people.
I don't know why that would matter. I mean,
yeah.
I don't think that's relevant what's going on here, but yeah. I don't know.
And so basically the big question is about the feds and John O'Keefe, I guess. We kind of just explained that, some of it. I mean, there's a lot to it. I'm not sure specifically. What's that?
Who's on edge?
I don't know. I'm thinking they're talking about maybe Jen, but maybe they could be Auntie JJ, or they could be talking about Bev. Sometimes they call her Auntie Bev. I don't know. I don't know. It looks like a typo.
Auntie Bev and the Ford Edge kind of got combined into one sentence there. Auntie Edge.
Auntie Edge. What's the new one?
Auntie Edge was driving the Ford Edge. Don't start a conspiracy now.
Oh my God.
Well, I think we mostly did talk about John O'Keefe and the feds. I mean, we don't know. Another question that came in earlier was, when did the Commonwealth receive those texts from the feds? It came through the TUI process, right? Like, that's basically a few months ago, I would assume.
Yeah, I mean, when the feds turn over the materials, they're going to turn it over to both sides. They're not going to do one and not the other. But, before that happened, the DA did extractions on certain phones, including McCabe's and whatever. So for them to suggest that they didn't have an idea, at least of a lot of what this material was and the phone records, that makes no sense. So for them to be caught off guard, I can't accept that. That's right. I go back to just accept what it is, accept it, move on. The prosecutor is not competent.
Yeah,
just
they
isn't.
don't prepare the witnesses either for
Okay,
this stuff, it seems like.
he's not ready for prime time. This is a prime time case, and for whatever reason, he's handling it. I don't know why. I don't know what happens in that
He drew the
office.
short straw.
Yeah.
This isn't. This is interesting because I would have said 10 minutes ago no, but now with this like phone destruction thing, did it come from him? I mean, was that what the last person was saying? Is there some kind of allegation that the what was his name? Stephen
Steve
Nelson.
Nelson, yeah.
I mean, was the allegation that he was directed, or is it just that he's an employee of Morrissey? I mean, if Morrissey directed it, then I would absolutely call him and I'd make an offer of proof in open court, let everyone hear it. And I would ask him point blank, did you do that? And if he did, then the scandal will increase exponentially, because if the elected DA, and I'm not saying he did, by the way, I don't know, but if he did, that would be, I mean, can you imagine the DA telling cop buddies or people that he's gone on the record defending vigorously, right? Previously, unethically, and he told them, dump your phones.
Right.
And then now the defense has no right to know what literally was on that phone. That
would be enough.
That's like national news. That's like Duke lacrosse level type stuff.
Yeah.
If there's
Mike
real,
Duke, yeah.
if there's real stuff on the phone.
What about, let's pretend that that's like a non-issue. I mean, I think it's going to be an issue, but let's just pretend it's not. Is his video statement that he put out, because it was full of lies about Michael Proctor's not related to these people. Could that be a way to get him on the stand too? Or is that not enough?
No, I don't think you're going to get him up there to basically say you're an idiot for making that statement. You're a scumbag for making that statement. And then you try to couch it as a relevant basis by saying, by the way, who told you that? Michael Proctor told me they weren't there. I mean, would you want to know? Would you want to ask, why did you say that Proctor had no relationship? Did Proctor tell you that? I mean, you could make an argument that that's somehow relevant. The real question is it collateral? Meaning, are you going a little far afield from the right witnesses? And you're always going to have a hesitation from a judge, not just this one, to allow the defense in a trial to call the DA because they want to. Now, what's interesting is, at least in Norfolk County, from what you can see, the DA appears to be somewhat involved in these cases on some level. I mean, where I come from in a huge office in Manhattan, they're not. I mean, they're figureheads. They have advisors, but they don't do anything other than, walk into court when Trump's on trial because we want to be tough and whatever, but they don't do anything really. They're political figureheads. Morrissey seems to be, have much dirtier hands in actual cases.
So probably not enough for the video, but maybe if they can pin the Steve Nelson stuff down, might be it.
I mean, if they had real evidence that was a directive from up top, I don't know how you could possibly argue he's not a relevant witness.
That would be something. That
and
would
he
be
would
amazing.
may want to consider taking the fifth. Wouldn't that be?
He would be somebody. Yeah, right.
Nah, he would just deny it. He wouldn't take it.
Someone noted that Morrissey also said Colin was never in the house.
Oh, he said Proctor had no relationship. Colin was never in the house. I mean, he made many things he said that he shouldn't have. He's more interested in spreading false information than correcting false information that we talked about earlier. The Ring video that allegedly showed her mow O'Keefe down. I mean, can you think of a more prejudicial statement to say to the public, or not say, but to not correct when that's false, to allow the media to do that? God only knows the source of that. Cops, DA, Alberts, who knows? But to just kind of duck under the covers and let the defendant get smeared like that. He's a joke as a DM.
totally
a
was
career
out of line.
politician.
Even
Yeah,
yeah, he was
Disgrace.
totally out of line making that statement that he did. Simply no
Joker.
whatever. It's like, dude, are you serious? You're a DA right now. It should be going to the courts, and you're sitting here as a DA making a public announcement, basically vouching for one side over the other. Sit down and go eat a meatball sub and shut the hell
I like this one. The DA takes the 5th beer.
up.
Yeah, we know he likes to drink the beers. That's what he gave to Chief Wiggum for his retirement gift. A couple beer holders with a couple cans of beer. He got the fancy ones, the fancy beer holder, the koozies. He got the I don't know, like the $50 beer koozie or something. It was like it's crazy. But we had a comment that they're watching us in Spain right now at 5:07 in the morning or something. 5 a.m. They're watching us in Spain right now.
España.
Espanol.
Yeah.
So it's 11 o'clock, a little past 11. We've been going for 2 hours. What are our final thoughts tonight? We'll go with Mazda Media first.
Thank you. Well, final thoughts are going to be Tuesday is, hope it's unfortunate that the popcorn sales that we're about to start back up again popcorn's not going to be able to be delivered by Tuesday morning at 9 o'clock because it is going to be a total popcorn festival for us on this side to see what Alan Jackson does. And it doesn't matter how much she prepares. The facts are on the side of Karen Reed. And Jen McCabe's got her whole story cooked up. She knows the ins and outs of the story that she's manifested, and get ready for that to be picked apart. That is going to be prime theater. And basically, it's going to, once again, just expose her for all the things that she's basically manifested. And I'm looking forward to seeing Karen Reed's reactions to this. We saw Karen's reaction to Jen when she was trying to cry and all that. And Karen looked so angry because just basically, she got sold down the road by Jen McCabe. She is truly victimized by Jen. And we're going to see just how the tables are going to turn once Alan Jackson gets up there. He's got an extra day to prepare. He's had all day yesterday, all day today, and he's got an additional day Monday. And they're going to come out of the box and out of the gates with a great cross-examination prepared. And I imagine this thing's going to go many hours because, one way or the other, no matter what level of involvement anybody had, Jen's still essentially the central character, and she's basically the path through which all roads meet. And from Karen to anybody in the house, she's the only, she is the biggest central character from what happened inside 34 Fairview Road, and Karen's journey to finding John and all that. No one individual besides, really no one individual knows more about this than her because she basically played all the hands. So this is probably in sense the biggest cross-examination we're going to see short of Michael Proctor and all that. But I think just because she's so involved throughout this thing that Jen, is ultimately probably the biggest cross-examination, and arguably she might be one of the longest durations of cross-examination that we do see in this case. I just think that Alan Jackson's going to bring it. He's going to have everything ordered nicely. I'd imagine that based on what they saw Adam Lally ask Jen on Friday, that there's probably only a few more questions that they might ask her. There might be a few more things that they pick apart. And like I said, when I first came on the show tonight, I'd rather be just about anybody on this planet right now, except for Jen on Tuesday morning and having to deal with Alan Jackson, because if there's any indication of how he's going to perform, just look back at the Brian Albert cross-examination when he was absolutely thorough and absolutely upped his game to a level we hadn't even seen yet. So it's going to be it's objection city all day long on Tuesday. Objection, sidebars all day long. It's going to be a lot of that for sure. They're going to try to protect her as much as possible, and ultimately, I think Alan Jackson's going to find a way around this somehow, and it's going to be Tuesday's going to be one of the biggest days, and it might spill over into Wednesday, perhaps. We'll see how that goes, but this is big time right now. And like I said, they felt they could cover this thing up, and now they're really gonna, this is really showtime for them to really prove that, they can try to force their way through to framing Karen Reed. And I just don't think they're going to prevail here. And I think, I hope the jury has their coffee and their bagel and their donut or their breakfast on Tuesday, because there's going to be a lot of edge of your seat moments in this one, and the internet's going to be chatting about this one, including all our great folks tuning into the Young Jerks right here. So I'll just say free Karen Reed, go Alan Jackson, and we're moving on to Tuesday.
We just got a donation come in on Venmo from Patricia. She asked specifically to you, Maz, if she wanted to know how were the wings?
Oh yes, the chicken wings are fantastic. So I was on, I had my own show, and Tommy and a few others called in, and so I oven baked them. Everyone was asking me to air fry them. I oven baked them 425, and I just doused them in Cajun powder, and I ate probably about 20 of those things with celery sticks and blue cheese. They were phenomenal, and I've been drinking seltzer water the past 2 hours just to kind of digest
Calm
it.
it down.
Yeah,
Calm it
calm it
down.
down a little bit. It was awesome. It was fantastic. Thanks, Stephanie. I appreciate the comment. Yeah, we
It
had a
was
good time.
actually Patricia, that one on the Patricia. Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, thanks, Patricia. I
PAT.
saw Stephanie say great show, Maz, in the
Yes.
comments. So
You got a lot of women following you here.
excellent.
We also had a follow up on that. Patricia said she wanted to know, who do folks think will take the plea deals when the trial is over? I don't think anyone. Maybe Higgins might be the only one on the federal side. I don't know. I don't think anyone's taking plea deals. What do you think? Quickly.
No clue. I mean, it's
Yeah,
too
me
early.
neither.
Too
Yeah.
early to even assess. I can't help but obviously having a lawyer brain think of this like a lawyer, which is in the context of reasonable doubt, as opposed to, oh my God, she's innocent, she's guilty. So it's kind of a less emotional evaluation. And I sit here and scratch my head and say, what the hell is Lally going to do? I mean, if after McCabe is done, it's established that she deleted phone calls, she made this Google search, whether even the 227 is proven or not. They're already aware of the Brian Albert nonsense with his butt dials and getting rid of his phone the day before the letter,
The requests, yeah.
That's what I was talking about earlier. It's very recent in their minds about the so-called McAlberts getting their stories straight through these bizarre text messages and whatnot. And I sit here and say to myself, how is this guy, whether it be in his usual droning monotone or if he kind of pumps himself up with a little eye of the tiger or something before court that day, how is he going to explain to the jury in a straight face that never mind the man behind the curtain about all of these weird calls, deletions, unexplained absences of phones and evidence for people who have nothing to do with anything? They were just partying. They did nothing, literally nothing. And it doesn't mean they killed anyone, but they weren't doing nothing because they're all running around doing this. And then you pile each layer on top of each layer with the experts that are coming and with Proctor. And I don't know how, even after Tuesday, when McCabe doubles down on everything, I mean, she looks like a tough woman. She's not going to lay down. I think she's going to go all the way and just chips fall wherever they go. She is going to make this case so much worse than it already is. And that's hard to believe because it already is a disaster. So I don't know what comes after disaster. I don't know if train wreck comes before or after, or how we change the description. And then you say, we still haven't heard from Higgins. There's still no Proctor. There's still no defense case. And I just don't know how they look in the mirror every morning and say, I'm going to go do justice today. And there's only one way for this to end. And I don't think it's very complicated.
Not guilty. That's it.
If they get that far.
Yeah.
Right?
If they get to the jury verdict. One more question came in. They said, do you think the jurors will wonder why the Commonwealth did not produce the 911 call?
I thought they played the 911 call, didn't they?
I thought they did too, but I'm not sure.
Of course, it was like 9 weeks ago, so who the hell can remember?
Yeah. And I've heard the 911 call before. Well, sort of. I heard it through the phone recording. It's complicated, but yeah,
I thought they did.
yeah, I thought they did too.
I thought they did.
It's tough to remember everything.
Well,
It's
a lot
been
here, yeah.
weeks, like you said. It's been weeks.
It's a lot
Yeah.
here. Yeah.
How many more weeks? We're gonna have 6 more weeks of this. I mean, it seems like it. It's crazy. We're only halfway through the prosecution witnesses.
Well,
There's one more. Mark, did you ever think the words "I agree with Wendy" would ever come out of your mouth? They did come out of your mouth tonight. That was a good last comment.
no, I did not.
What was that about too? It was about what? What was? I can't even remember.
About her whole thing about if a defendant doesn't
Testify.
testify
Yeah.
or
A witness.
invokes a privilege that they're not legally obligated to invoke, that we should all just assume there's a reason. And what I said was, if it was McCabe or Proctor or somebody like that who did that, that I would, catapult myself on the island of Wendy World for 5 minutes and agree and say, yes, the jury absolutely is entitled at that point to say, what is this witness hiding?
Wendy World. It's funny. Oh, that's a great way to end the show tonight.
Yeah.
Love it.
Wendy World, Wendy World. Grantyland.
You'll have to do it to Wayne's World.
Wayne's World, yeah.
Wendy World. I don't want to borrow that song. Wendy World. Party time, excellent. Wendy World.
Wendy. Awesome. Thank you guys so much for being here tonight. We'll check back in, I guess, on Tuesday.
Yeah, sounds good to me. Look forward.
And
to it.
go
Celtics are on that
Celtics.
night.
Yeah, we got to work the scheduling around.
I know. I don't know how we're gonna do this. You're gonna be
8
at the
p.m.
8 p.m.
Celtics, so we
Yeah.
can just 6 to 8
Yeah,
or something.
we're in the big
We're gonna
time.
be really late or really early, right?
Yeah.
Can't be doing this when they're in the conference final.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
We gotta.
We're probably gonna be a late show that night then.
Okay.
Yeah. there we go.
We'll work it out.
All
We'll
right.
figure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sounds good to me.
Thank you guys so much, and
Okay.
thank you everyone listening tonight.
Take
Have
care.
a great night.
Take care now. Bye then. Free Karen.
Bye now. Free Karen.
Take care.
Bye now. With the Young Jerks, my name is Mike Crawford. I just want to go through a couple Cash App, Venmos, and all that stuff. I want to thank everyone for listening. Grammy D, I love Grammy D. Anyone Grammy D sent me $10. She said, thanks for another great show. Thank you, Grammy D. Very generous of you. That was on the Cash App. Venmo, Jennifer sent $25. So thank you so much, Jennifer, for the donation tonight. We also read Patricia's earlier. That's it on the Venmo tonight. Thank you so much for the donations, all the super chats. I hope I got them all out tonight. I tried. Again, there was over 50 of them tonight. I tried to ask all the questions. If I didn't get to them all, I'm sorry. I really tried. It was pretty cool to see Melanie Little in here doing a super chat, making some comments. I need to get Melanie Little. I think everyone wants to see Melanie Little with Mark Bederow on the same show. That would be great. So we need to work that out for next week if we can. So much to do. It's hard to keep up. Even tonight, we weren't sure. We were trying to schedule and just did it last minute. People showed up though. I mean, we announced this like 5-10 minutes before we went on the air, and we still got 3,000 people watching us all over the world now. It's amazing to see people from Europe, Australia, New Zealand, Portugal, Spain, England, Germany, everyone. It's unbelievable. I've never seen the pounds come in, the euros, the Australian dollars until the last couple of weeks. It just shows you how big this story is actually getting. It's moving beyond Massachusetts. It's gone national, obviously. We expected that, but now it's gone worldwide. It's amazing to see that we have international listeners. Always been like a local type of show, and now we got international listeners. It's just pretty amazing to see. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening and supporting. And yeah, like I gotta know, said Melanie, come on up. I don't think tonight was the night, but we need to get Melanie Little on here. Definitely. I really want to get attorney Melanie Little on here. It was pretty amazing to see her comment tonight. Go Melanie Little. She's one of the people who kept me going. Her and Sean McDonough through the darkest times of this whole ordeal for me, when I was starting to have doubts and started watching them, and they got me right back to where I should be, which is knowing that Karen Reed was innocent. I want to thank you all the comments tonight, all the listeners. Without you guys, we'd be nowhere. We'd be nowhere, absolutely nowhere. We have so many good viewers, people who watch this show regularly, commenting, good questions, good community, good comments in the chat. I love the chat. You guys are like my friends in the chat. So good night. We're going to take off. Someone said, where's Sean lately? Sean's been doing his show. He took a break till Tuesday. He'll be back on Tuesday, definitely Tuesday morning and Tuesday night. Sean's been streaming pretty regularly. You can find him on YouTube. I definitely want to get him back on the show too, but it's difficult because he's also got his own show, and it's difficult sometimes to schedule these shows. It really is, with everyone's different schedules, and my schedule is really kind of ridiculous. It changes a lot, and so we do our best. I want to thank MJ, our moderator, for always kicking butt and helping us out here. We also have added some other folks too as moderators. I want to thank them as well. Again, I want to thank everyone for donating tonight. We had a lot of donations, 51 on Super Chat tonight. That's amazing. Stephanie is another moderator that we have here. Thank you, Stephanie. She also gave a donation tonight. Thank you so much, everybody. We'll see you. I'm going to take tomorrow off. I said I was going to take Sunday and Monday. We did a show anyways on Sunday, but I'm going to hopefully stick to Monday off. I think I need one day a week off, and we have no trial days tomorrow. So we'll see you Tuesday sometime. Tuesday morning, definitely. We'll be streaming the trial Tuesday morning, 9 a.m. Jen McCabe cross-examination. I can't wait for that. Everyone have a great rest of your weekend. It's almost over. There's like 40 minutes left of it, and we'll be on Monday. So we'll see you on Tuesday. Have a great Monday, everyone. See you then.